in the state of, let me get this right, Ohio. Uh, Jake Christensen I'm pretty sure he's going to be an RFA, only 23 years young, so I'm pretty sure he's still an RFA at this point. Danforth still has one more year left on his deal. Trey Fix-Walensky, I'm pretty sure he re-signed. I'm almost 100% certain he re-signed. I'd be surprised if he didn't. But if he didn't re-sign, I'm sure he'd be an RFA. Liam Foodie just finished the last year of his deal at $765,000. Probably has one more year left on his extension. I'm right. Cool. And then the big signing from last year, Johnny Gaudreau still has 6 more years left on his deal at 9.75. Eric Gudbranson still has 3 more years left on his deal at $4 million. Boone Jenner, the captain of the team, still has 3 more years left. Kent Johnson still has 1 more year left on his deal. Sean Corrali has 2 more years to go. Patrick Laine still has 3 more years left. Kirill Marchenko, if I said his name correctly, still has 1 more year left to go. Hunter McCown has 2 more years left. Matthew Oliver, I'm pretty sure he got traded away, if I'm not mistaken, because I don't have his name written down, so I don't think he's a member of the Blue Jackets anymore. Lane Pedersen, I discussed previously, he is no longer a member of the Columbus Blue Jackets, or maybe I didn't, sorry. He signed with the Edmonton Oilers. I do apologize on that one. Adam Peaky has finished his last year of his deal. I think he signed a 2-year, $2.75 million. Just take a quick old gander. Uh, 3 years, actually. So he has 3 more years left on his contract. Eric Robinson has 1 more year left on his deal. Jack Roslovic has 1 more year left on his deal. And Zach Werenski, the big defenseman, has 5 more years left on his deal. So now let's take a little gander at the goaltending situation. Hutchinson is a free agent, and Merzlikis has 4 years left on his deal, and Tarasov has 2 more years left to go. So between Merzlikis and the other tandem, they'll be sticking around for a few more years. Now off to the state of Texas to take a look at the Dallas Stars. Jamie Benn, the captain of the team, has 2 more years left on his deal. Dandonov did re-sign with the Dallas Stars, so he's going to be sticking around for a couple more years. Dellandre, I'm pretty sure he's RFA. Domi has left. He's gone to Toronto, just like his dad. So I'm sure the Domi name in Toronto will be huge. Faxa has 2 more years left on his deal. Glenn Denning did sign with the Tampa Bay Lightning, so he's out. Akpana has 1 more left on his deal. Hanley did re-sign, so he's going to be sticking around Dallas for a couple more years. Harley still has 1 more year left on his deal. Mikko Heiskanen has 6 more years left on his deal, so he's not going anywhere anytime soon. Hintz just finished the last year of his contract at 3.15, but now he's going to be making 8.45 over 8 years. So he's making some big bucks, to say the least. Wyatt Johnson has 2 more years left on his rookie contract. Kiviranta, I want to say he left, but maybe he got re-signed, or maybe he's an RFA. No, he's an RFA, or UFA, I do apologize. So he is yet to sign or re-sign with the Dallas Stars. Lindell has 2 more years left at 5.8. Mason Marchment, the big acquisition from last year, has 3 more years left on his deal at 4.5. Colin Miller, I did discuss, he got traded away, so he's no longer going to be a member of the Stars. Olofsson got traded away as well, so he's gone. Pavelski did re-sign for 3.5. Is it over 1 year or 2 years? Something 2 years? 1 year. So he has 1 more year left, and this might honestly be his last year of his contract, or last year of his career, because he's going to be 39 years old when the season starts, and that's pretty late in your career to be playing hockey. Jason Robertson has 3 more years left on his deal, and Tyler Seguin has 4 more years left on his. Oh, I forgot about Ryan Sutter. I forgot about that guy. He's going to be 38 years old, making 3.65. Wow, that's crazy. I'll take a look at their goaltending tandem. I'm pretty sure they're both signed for at least 1 more year. Oops, I just knocked that over. Hold on. Let's get this straight. So Jake Ottinger, their starting goaltender, has 2 more years left on his deal at $4 million, and Scott Wedgwood has 1 more year left as the backup at $1 million. So now we'll take a look at the Detroit Red Wings. over and then click that. There you go. So I'll take a look at the Red Wings. So, again, if I get these names pronounced incorrectly, I apologize ahead of time. Jonathan Bergeron has 1 more year left on his contract. Big Ben Sherrod has 3 more years left on his deal. Alex Chiasson is an UFA. Where will he go? I feel like he's more of a bottom 6 guy at this point, more than a top 9 forward. So wherever he goes, I'm sure he'll just be there as a extra skater, more or less. Andrew Kopp did sign that contract last year. Has 4 more years left on his deal. Saranik has 1 more year left on his deal. Edvinsson has 2 more years left to go. Adam Ernie, I believe he's a UFA. I don't believe he's re-signed yet, if he's signed at all with anyone. Roby Fabry has 2 more years left to go on his deal. Robert Hagg, I believe he did leave. Yeah, he has signed with the Anaheim Ducks, so he's no longer a member of the Red Wings. Marco Kasper has 2 more years left to go on his rookie contract. Dominik Kubalik, I don't have his name written down, still has 1 more year left to go on his deal. Dylan Larkin, the captain of the team, just finished his contract at $6.1 million, and now his new one kicks in at $8.7 for the next 8 years. So a pretty good contract for a pretty good length of time. So Stevie Y seems to know a thing or two about signing players. Gustav Lindstrom, I believe, re-signed, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, he did re-sign with the Red Wings, so he'll be back. Matt Luff re-signed as well, so that's pretty big news for them. Oli Mata is under contract for at least 2 more years. Yep. So his new contract will kick in at $3 million in the 2023-2024 season. Jordan Oestlery, I believe he has left the Detroit Red Wings. Yeah, he is signed with the Calgary Flames. David Perron has 1 more year left to go on his contract. Mark Pirsk, I'm pretty sure he's left. I don't have his name written down. Either that or he's just an RFA or UFA. Michael Rasmussen has 1 more left to go on his contract. Lucas Raymond has 1 more year left to go on his contract. Mortis Zeider has 1 more year left to go on his contract as well. Pius Suter is a UFA, if I'm not mistaken, and has not been signed as of yet. Joe Valino, I believe he's a UFA or an RFA, one of the two. And Jake Wallerman did re-sign for 3 more years at 3.4, so he's going to be sticking to Motor City for a few more years. And then Philip Zadina, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, he was the one guy that everyone was talking about Detroit possibly buying out his contract or whatever the case may be, which is crazy because the kid's only 23 years old. But either they just don't have a place for him in the lineup. So where will he end up at the start of next season? Only him and his agent will know, if I'm going to be completely honest. But the fact that the Detroit's having so many problems with this kid, it says a lot. As for the goaltending situation, Hellberg has left. I think he signed with the Pittsburgh Penguins. Ville Husso is under contract for at least 2 more years. And if I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure Nedjlovic, if I'm pronouncing his name, has gone elsewhere. As we get further into the videos, we'll find out where he went. I want to say he went to Pittsburgh. So as of right now, Husso is the #1 guy in Detroit. Now, taking a look at the Edmonton Oilers. So, Nick Bjugstad, I thought he would have stayed with the Oilers, has gone back to Arizona. Shocked to myself. Evan Bouchard, this is a big thing right here. They're trying to find a contract. To me, it looks like they're trying to do like a bridge deal, like a 2 or 3 year deal, and then they'll go for the big contract afterwards. But like, if you're the Oilers, you want to get this guy signed ASAP. You don't want this going into like late July or August, September, start at training camp, because that's going to be a lot of distractions. Because this guy's got to be signed before a certain point before the season starts. So they got to get the deal done ASAP, in my opinion. Broberg still has 1 more year left to go on his deal. CC, is he on his way out? It's a lot of money to be paying a guy of his caliber. He's not really a top 4 defenseman in my league, and if he is, he's more of a defensive guy than an offensive. Vincent Desharnais is on the last year of his contract coming up. Draisaitl has 2 more years left to go, so man, they got to do something drastic in the playoffs, like win a cup ASAP, because if they don't win in the next couple of seasons between him and McDavid, that's a lot of money to be losing, especially if those guys decide to go elsewhere. So 2 more years left for Draisaitl at home. This was a huge addition, in my opinion, for the Oilers on their back end, especially with him paired up with Bouchard. That was just a match made in heaven. So he's sticking around for at least 3 more years. Warren Fogle has 1 more year left to go in his contract. Zach Hyman has 5 more years left to go in his contract. Janmark did resign for 1 more year at $1 million. And we'll keep taking a look. Evander Kane's still under contract for 3 more years. Oscar Klefbom, now, just like the other LTIR members, again, the Oilers are just paying him out. He hasn't played since the 2020 season. And so, yeah, 3 years since he's played. Clem Costin, I did mention, was traded away. Brett Kulak, I think he signed for 3 or 4 more years? 3 more years. McDavid, 3 more years at this contract. And just like I said with Draisaitl, like, you got to win a cup within those 2 or 3 seasons, because if one of those guys leaves, especially if Draisaitl leaves, since his contract is up sooner than later, that's going to be a huge loss and a huge impact, because I believe, I could be mistaken saying this, but I believe McDavid compliments Draisaitl as much as Draisaitl compliments McDavid. So you got to win now. Ryan McLeod is an RFA, so they got to get him signed pretty quickly. Ryan Murray, he was injured for most of the season. I don't see him coming back, and I'm sure another team will pick him up. Nuge has 6 more years left to go on his contract, so he's not going anywhere anytime soon. Darnell Nurse has 7 more years to go at 9.25. I believe that's a pretty high cap, or a pretty high number for a defenseman of his caliber. Derek Ryan, I think he's an UFA, but I believe the Oilers, in my opinion, got to re-sign him, or Derek Shore, the guy below him. One of those 2 guys would be perfect on that bottom 6 role. Devin Shore, not Derek, I do apologize. I have been corrected. But between one of those 2 guys, you got to sign one of those 2 guys for at least a couple more seasons, or at least 1 more year. And then Yamamoto has been traded away as well. I've discussed that in my previous video. Take a look at the goaltending tandem. I believe they're both still signed for a few more years. So, yeah, they have Jack Campbell for at least 4 more seasons. Skinner, we'll take a look at his contract. It's pretty favorable, $2.6 million. That's a pretty good contract over 3 years. So they're guaranteed to have these 2 guys locked up for at least 2 more seasons. And we'll just scroll down to Mike Smith for a second. So he did not play this past season. He's on the LTIR. 41 years old, obviously. That's a little late for a goaltender to be playing in the NHL. So he's on the roster, but just like a lot of other players, he's just there because they got to pay him. So that takes care of the Florida Panthers. That takes care of the Edmonton Oilers. I do apologize. There we go. Okay. So Barkov is signed for 7 more years. Bennett signed for 2 more years. Cousins has 1 more year left in his contract. Zach Dalpe did re-sign. That's a pretty favorable contract, $775,000. I believe it's just over 1 more season. Now, this is a name I'm really going to struggle with. I know I'm going to struggle with this one. Grigory Denishenko? He did re-sign. He only played the 1 game in the postseason, but yeah, he's going to be back in the Florida Panthers uniform. Duclair was traded away, so he's gone. It is. Eric Ekblad has 2 more years left on his contract. Casey Fitzgerald, I believe, is a UFA. He has not signed with anyone just yet. Forsling has 1 more year left to go on his contract. Gudis was traded away. Hornqvist retired. Ryan Lomberg has 1 more year left to go on his deal. Lundell has 1 more year left on his deal as well. Luo Steinen has 1 more year left on his deal too. Mahura did sign, I believe, for 1 more year at 9.925 or $925,000. Montour has 1 more year left to go on his deal. Yep, 1 more year. So yeah, Montour has 1 more year left to go on his deal. Reinhardt has 1 more year. Giovanni Smith was traded away. Mark Stahl has signed with the Philadelphia Flyers. The big question for the other Stahl brother, is he going to keep playing? Is he going to retire? Eric Stahl, 38 years old. If he was to come back, he's obviously going to want to go to a contender. He's been to 3 Stanley Cup finals, but only has 1 ring, and that was back in 2006 with the Carolina Hurricanes. Matthew Tkachuk, the steal of the century. I got to tell you, that trade is looking pretty damn good for the Florida Panthers after giving up Huberdeau and Weegar. He has 7 more years left to go on his deal. I'll take a quick little gander. Oh, I forgot about Carter Verhaeghe. He has 2 more years left to go on his contract. And Colin White, I believe, is a UFA. So now we'll take a look at the goaltending situation. Bobrovsky still has 3 more years left to go on his deal. Shane Knight still has, I want to say, 2 years left at 4.5? 3 years at 4.5. So We're guaranteed to have those two goaltenders for the next 3 seasons, and Alex Lyon has signed. Oh, I know I put his name down somewhere. Oh, with the Detroit Red Wings. So he's out of the Florida Panthers. So now we'll take a look at the Los Angeles Kings. This video is going to be like an hour and a half long. We're almost at the 50-minute mark, and I'm only at the LA. So if anyone happens to tune in, thank you very much. I guess we'll start with the goaltending situation. So for the LA Kings, they did acquire Korpisalo this past season in that infamous Jonathan Quick trade. He is actually signed with the Ottawa Senators. So I'll discuss who the LA goaltending will be in the future. So for the Los Angeles Kings, Mikey Anderson still signed, I think, for 2 more years at $4.125. Anderson Dolan did re-sign with the Los Angeles Kings. Arvidsson still has 1 more year left to go on his contract. Byfield has 1 more year left to go. Deneau has 4 years, as well as Doughty. They both have 4 years. Dursey was traded away. Edler's contract's up. He's a UFA at 37 years old. Where will he play? And he does sign with anyone. It's not going to be for a huge amount of money. Kevin Fiala has 6 years left to go on his contract. Vladislav Garakov also came over with Korpisalo in that trade. He did re-sign with the Los Angeles Kings. Grunstrom has 1 more year left to go on his contract. Iafallo was traded away. Kaleyev has 1 more year left on his contract. Kempe has 3 years left to go. Kopitar did re-sign. He had 1 more year left heading into this season, but he has a 2-year deal, so he's guaranteed to be with the LA Kings for at least 3 more years. Kupari was traded away. Lizotte, I'm pretty sure, was traded away. They gave up a lot for Dubois, to say the least. Zach McEwen did sign with the Ottawa Senators. Trevor Moore has finished up his contract, but he did re-sign for 4.2. I want to say 2 more years. Let's just take a quick little gander. Five years, I do apologize. So Trevor Moore will be a Los Angeles King for a few more years. Well, because I don't have a crystal ball, I can't see into the future. Maybe if we just left that screen where it shows how long the extension is, I don't have to keep guessing how long players have signed for. But that's just me. Matt Roy has 1 more year left to go on his contract. Maybe it was Velarde that got traded, not Lizotte. Either way, one of those 2 guys is heading out. If it is Velarde, I'm sure they'll be working on contract extension with him with his new team. And if Lizotte's still sticking around, he has 1 more left to go on his contract. Sean Walker has 1 more year left to go on his deal, and that takes care of the Los Angeles Kings. So now let's move on to the Minnesota Wild. Okay, we'll take a look at the goaltending situation. So Marc-Andre Fleury has 1 more year left to go on his contract. He's going to be 38 years old heading into next season. If he's anything, he'll just be a backup. They got to get Philip Gustafson signed. He is a UFA, I do believe. So, will they re-sign him? Will they bring someone else in? If I was Minnesota, I'd re-sign Gustafson. He's a pretty good goaltender. Okay, so Kalen Addison. I don't think he's signed yet, so he's still under, or he's still a RFA, I believe. Boldy did finish up his contract at $888,000. Now he's going to do a 7-year, $7 million contract. What's 7 times 7? 49, that's right. So he's guaranteed to make $49 million over the next 7 years. Crazy.
What?
It's a lot of money. Broden has 5 more years left to go. Dewar has 1 more year left to go. Duhaime, I believe, is UFA, if I'm not mistaken. And we'll take a look at Matt Dumba. So I just want to pause here for a quick sec. So this guy here most likely will be on the move. Obviously, with every team, you only have so much money to spend. You have a cap hit. So the fact that he might be on his way out of Minnesota is crazy. And if he's in another uniform, it's going to be very strange to see. But it seems to be more of a common theme than anything nowadays. So I don't want to say he was the face of the franchise, but he was the backbone, to say the least. of that defensive core when it comes to the Wild. Eric Neck has 6 more years left to go in his contract. Brock Faber has 2 more years left to go in his. Marcus Foligno has 1 more year left to go in his contract. Gaudreau just finished his contract, but he signed a 5-year extension for 2.1. Golgoski has 1 more year left to go in his contract. Hartman has 1 more year left to go in his contract as well. Marcus Johansson is a free agent and most likely will be testing the waters to see what team wants to take him on. Face of the franchise. Speaking of the face of the franchise, Kirill Kaprizov has 3 more years left to go in his contract at $9 million. John Klingberg has left and signed with the Toronto Maple Leafs. He's just bouncing around. He played for the Dallas Stars 2 seasons ago, the Minnesota this past season, and now he's moving on to TO. John Merrill has 2 more years left to go on his deal. Jacob Middleton also has 2 more years left to go on his deal. Gustav Nyquist was acquired from the Columbus Blue Jackets. He did play pretty decently, but now he's off to Smashville. Ryan Reeves will be joining his former teammate John Klingberg in Toronto. And the captain, Jared Spurgeon, not Jacob Spurgeon, has 4 more years left to go at 7.75. And Sam Steele has left. He will be joining the Dallas Stars. And Sundqvist, I believe, is an RFA. He has not signed with anyone as of yet. And Zuccarello has 1 more left to go on his deal. That takes care of Minnesota. Oh, there we go. Move on to the next team. There's the cup holder for Le Bleu, Blanc, et Rouge, the Montreal Canadiens. Oh, there it is. It's up close. Just in case you didn't see it the first time.
It was right here.
Okay. Well, there. You saw the cup holder 3 times now. Let's take a look at the Montreal Canadiens roster. So Price is on the LTIR. He's going to be... I'm almost 100% certain he's... No. I'm almost 100% certain he's played his last game. He did play a couple of games in the 2022 season. He didn't play at all last year. But if I had to make if I was a betting man, which I'm not, I can almost guarantee that Price is no longer going to be a goaltender. So the other 2 goaltenders, Samuel Montembeault and Jake Allen, are both signed for at least... Montembeault signed for at least 1 more year. I think Allen signed for at least 2 more seasons. So we're guaranteed to have at least that goaltending tandem for this upcoming year. But will they possibly trade one of them? And if they do, who's it going to be? If I place my bet again, which I'm not a betting man, I can see Allen being on the trade block. So let's take a look at the skaters. So Josh Anderson is signed for 4 more years. What are you doing? There. Joel Armia has 2 more years left to go on his contract. Justin Barron has 1 more left to go on his. Alex Belzile did leave for the Big Apple. He's now going to be a member of the New York Rangers. Paul Byron's contract did run up, and just like Price, I believe that he's going to hang up his skates. I can't see him coming back, and if he does, he's just a bottom 6 forward anyway. So, again, if I had to make my bet, I think, well, to say the least, Paul Byron is going to be out. Cole Caulfield did sign that contract extension, so he's going to be sticking around with the Montreal Canadiens with his buddy Nick Suzuki. Kirby Dach still has 3 more years left on his deal, so between the 3 of them, they're a pretty good trio. The Jonathan Drouin saga is finally over, and oh my gosh, I don't know what else to say, but it feels like a huge, something has been lifted off my back. I want to say monkey, but I mean, God forbid. We live in this society now where you can't say certain words or can't say certain things. But my God, what a huge weight that has been lifted off my shoulder, because that trade with Tampa Bay and giving up Sergachev, that was a horrible trade. So thank God that his contract is up. He played very poorly, to say the least, and thank God Bergevin's gone. I have all faith in Kent Hughes, to say the least. So moving on, Christian Dvorak. He was supposed to be kind of like a replacement for Kotkaniemi. Obviously, he's not going to be as well, but he's the top 9 forward, in my opinion, more than the top 6 guys. So he has 2 more years left to go in his contract.
Jake?
What?
Is it Jake?
No, Christian Dvorak. Joel Edmondson, I did say he was traded, so he's gone. Jake, speaking of Jake Evans has 2 more years left to go on his deal. Sean Farrell has 2 more years left to go on his deal. Gallagher, it's a pretty gross contract considering he's 31 years old and he's not putting up like 20, 30 goals a season. So it's a pretty big contract. In my opinion, I don't want to see him get traded away, but man, that's a big cap hit for someone that's 31 years old and not producing the way he used to. Caden Gooley has 2 more years left to go on his deal. Dennis Gurianov was traded for Dandonov, but I don't see him coming back. He is an RFA or UFA. I do apologize, but Jordan Harris, a young defenseman, did sign a contract extension. I think it's just for 1 year, 1.4 mil. Raphael Harvey Pinard just re-signed, so he's going to be sticking around for another year or two. Mike Hoffman, a contract that I don't know how I feel about that. If this was the Hoffman from like the 2016-17 season, I'd say this is a hell of a deal. This is a great player. The guy's 33 years old. He's not putting up the amount of points he used to, especially when he was a Senator. And he's kind of bounced around the league with the Florida Panthers and the St. Louis Blues, respectively. So I don't know. When we have 1 more year left in his contract, we have to suffer through it. I'm sure we can trade him away at next year's trade deadline. Jonathan Kovacic signed, I believe, an extension for 1 more season. That's 0.65 mil, or 765,000. Michael Matheson, I really like this trade. They acquired him last season, or last offseason, for Jeff Petrie. And yeah, Jeff Petrie was a fan favorite, and I did miss him going. But this guy's obviously a little bit younger, and he's from Montreal, so a hometown kid. I'm sure he's excited to be donning the blue, blanc, and rouge. Sean Monahan did resign for, I think, 1 mil. So at least we're not paying him 6.375, which is huge considering how injury prone the kid is. And I call him a kid because he's only 28 years young. And it feels like he's been in the league for quite some time. But yeah, we'll see what happens. I mean, in my opinion, if he has a pretty good season and say Montreal is tanking or they're not competing for a playoff spot, at least if you trade him away, you can possibly get some assets back, whether it be a prospect or a pick. So all we can do is hope that he can stay injury free. Michael Pezzetta did re-sign. I can't remember for how long, but he's a good bottom 6 forward. Rem Pitlick still has 1 more year left on his deal. And David Savard has 2 more years left to go on his deal. The big number 1 pick from last year, Drew Slavkovsky, has 2 more years left to go on his deal. Obviously, he didn't have a very good rookie season, but I believe that just give him time to develop, and maybe he could turn into a star. Now, there's obviously a lot of talk that, well, I mean, if they developed him properly instead of rushing him into the lineup, that may have played a factor. Obviously, whenever you come from a junior team or you come from outside of North America, there's different hockey compared to where you come from to when you come here. So, I don't know. I just think that they develop him properly. He can turn into a top 6 guy, but I just feel rushing him into the lineup is not the answer. And the captain, my captain, 7 more years left for Nick Suzuki. Chris Tierney, another guy that they brought in just to kind of play like a bottom 6 role. I wouldn't be surprised if he tested the water. He's only 29 years old, but we got a lot of centers, so the last thing we need is more centers. Chris Weidman still has 1 more left to go on his contract. It's pretty respectable considering $765,000 for a top 6 guy who's in and out of the lineup. He's been a healthy scratch, but from what I hear, he doesn't really complain. He's just kind of glad to be there.
Drink some water.
Why don't you just keep scrolling instead of telling me what to do? And Arbor Jacki, there's 1 more left to go on his contract. He could be an absolute stud. He's not afraid to hit. He's not afraid to drop the gloves. So pretty good pickup for the Montreal Canadiens for this game. And Jesse Yolonen, pretty sure he's a RFA, and if he does sign, it's going to be like a 2-way contract. So, there. I think I spent more time on the Montreal Canadiens than anybody else, but moving on.
You spent the last time on the
Hurricanes? All right.
Now the National Predators.
Nashville Predators. We're already at a minute, or we're already at an hour and 3 minutes into this video.
That's nice.
Still got quite a bit of ways to go. So Saros has 2 more years left to go on his contract, and Lankinen signed a $2 million. Hold on, go over.
Oh, what?
1 year left on his contract. So they're guaranteed to have that goaltending tandem for next season. So going on to their list of skaters, Igor Afanasyev has 2 more years left to go on his deal. I believe Asplund was signed by the Florida Panthers, so he's no longer a member there. Tyson Barrie was acquired last year for Ekholm in that trade with the Oilers, has 1 more left to go on his deal. Borowiecki has retired, but he will be remaining with the Nashville Predators, I believe, as a player developer. And we'll keep scrolling down the list. Alex Carrier.
Maybe if you don't.
Alexander Carrier was re-signed by the Nashville Predators, so he's going to stick around there for a few more years. Matt Duchene, his contract was bought out by the Nashville Predators. He is now a member of the Dallas Stars. Luke Evangelista has 2 more years left to go on his deal. Dante Fabro has 2 more years left to go on his deal. I'm going to go over to the extension. He has 1 more year left to go on 2.5. Cal Foote is a RFA, but I believe that for what Nashville gave up, which was Taylor Janot, if I'm not mistaken, at the trade deadline, they're going to want to sign this kid, to say the least, for an extension. Philip Forsberg has 7 more years left to go at his deal at 8.5. Cody Glass was re-signed, so he's going to stick around in Smashville for a little while. Jordan Gross did sign an extension, so he's guaranteed to be there for at least 1 more season.
I know why you don't get any views.
Why?
Probably people kid.
Whatever. Mark Janikowski has 1 more year left to go, and he signed an extension for 1 more season.
Hey, let's spin ahead.
Ryan Johansson was traded away. I did discuss that in my previous video. Roman Josi, the captain of the team, has 5 more years left to go on his deal. Jeremy Lozon, I believe, was traded away. Yeah, I don't have his name on the list. Jake Livingstone, his contract is up. I'm pretty sure he's an RFA. Ryan McDonough has 3 more years left to go on his contract. Tomas Novak, his contract did run up, but he just re-signed for 1 more year. Juuso Persson has 1 more left to go on his contract. Kiefer Sherwood, his contract ran up, but he's signing 1 more year for .775. Colton Sissons has 3 more years left to go on his contract. Cole Smith has 1 more year left. I do apologize, to go on his contract, and Philippe Tomineso has 1 more year left to go on his contract as well, and as well as Yakov Trenin. So that should take care of the Nashville Predators. On to Jersey. I guess we'll just start with the goaltending situation. So Vanacek has 2 more years left to go on his contract. Akira Schmid kind of came out of nowhere and was a pretty good goaltender when it came